And these were also independently corroborated by some external measures. We got the number of syringes being discarded in the city's syringe disposal boxes, and they correlated strongly with our measures of public disorder. This is an important paper that was published in The Lancet in 2005, and in this analysis we looked at the frequency of safe injection site use on syringe sharing, the behavior that accounts for the majority of HIV transmissions in the community. And in this analysis, one thing I urge you to pay attention to, so I'll come back to it, is this study involved 431 injection drug users, of which 49 reported syringe sharing. That equates to 11.4%. Just hold that number, okay? 49, 11%, I'll come back to it. In this model, we found that people who use the safe injection site on a regular basis were 70% less likely to share syringes. Some people said, well, maybe that's a selection effect. Maybe people who use the site are less likely to share syringes in the first place. So using historical data derived from the Vancouver Injection Drug User Study, we went back in time and we found out that actually these people who were reporting this reduction historically shared syringes at the same rate as people who didn't use the site. In other words, these reductions only emerged after the site opened. We also were able to look at syringe sharing in a totally separate cohort of injection drug users, and we found the same protective effects against syringe sharing in a separate sample. Many people are interested in the site's potential effect on overdose, and in this paper published in the American Journal of Public Health, we looked at overdoses over an 18-month period. There was 366 overdoses in this period, resulting in an overdose incidence of 1.3 per 1,000 injections. And there's now actually been over 1,000 overdose events at Insite, and not a single person has died. Many people are interested in the impact of the site on ongoing drug use or entry into addiction treatment. Again, many people thinking that, well, this enables drug use. People will just keep using if you make drug use comfortable. Other people saying Insite will serve as a mechanism connecting highly marginalized and homeless drug users to addiction services. So this paper was published in the American Journal, the New England Journal of Medicine. And in this multivariate Cox regression analysis, we found that people who use Insite on a weekly basis were more likely than those who didn't to enter a detox. And we also identified the mechanism. People who had had some level of contact with the addiction counselor in Insite were 2 times likely to enter a detox program. But people said, well, that's nice, but that's just detox. What about addiction treatment? So we followed that up with a paper in addiction treatment. And in this analysis, what you're looking at is the probability of detox enrollment. And we looked at a cohort of over 1,000 safe injection site users. The top line is the year after the injection site opened, the bottom line is the year before. As you can see, there's a doubling in the rate of detox use program following the year after Insite opened. And this is based on a hard linkage to the detox record database. This is not people self-reporting that they used to detox. This is an actual admission confirmed by a personal health number. We then went on to see whether this detox went on to further addiction treatment program use, and we found elevated rates of addiction treatment use among people entering detox. As I mentioned, we've also turned our attention to some of the potential negative impacts. This is a paper that showed that the opening of Insite had no impact, no statistically detectable impact on rates of common forms of drug-related crimes in the neighborhood. This is a paper that was published in the British Medical Journal showing that the site did not lead to elevated rates of relapse into drug use or reduced rates of cessation of drug use in the community, meaning it didn't have an adverse effect on the overall community drug use patterns. And this is a paper recently published in the American Journal of Public Health showing that since the opening of Insite, there has not been an elevated rate of initiation into injection drug use, meaning that we're not seeing more high-risk individuals starting injecting because suddenly we have this place called Insite open. So obviously there's been a huge body of literature now around this evaluation. It's probably what I would call now, I used to say one of the most well-studied public health interventions in Canada. Now I'd say it's one of the most over-studied interventions in Canada, and I think it's time that we knock it off and move moved on, but here we are. Let me summarize the whole body of work now for you briefly. We have published now 3 studies which, through different methods and data, suggest that the opening of the injection site has been associated with reductions in public disorder. We have published 2 papers showing that Insite has attracted and retained a high-risk population of injection drug users who are at heightened risk for HIV infection and overdose. Use of the site has been associated with reductions in HIV risk behavior in 2 separate studies. The staff at Insite have now successfully managed over 1,000 overdose events and nobody has died. Many individuals at risk for HIV infection are receiving safer injecting education, and we have published results showing increases in safer injecting practices which commonly lead to bacterial infections and account for the majority of hospitalizations among IVs in Vancouver. We have 2 papers in 2 very prestigious journals showing that use of the site has been associated with increased use of detoxification services and other addiction treatments. And we've also shown that the site has not prompted adverse changes in community drug use patterns, led to elevated rates of initiation into injection drug use, nor has it led to increases in drug-related crime. Again, trying to maximize transparency and communicate our results, we didn't stop there. We summarized all these findings in a review paper that was published in the Canadian Medical Association Journal. It's available online at www.cmaj.ca. So then we got to the end of the 3 years of the evaluation, and this is where things got a little bit strange. We had come to the end, and all these studies had really shown that Insite was doing what it was expected to do. It wasn't having any negative impacts, but people felt that continued study was warranted. So, at Health Canada's invitation, in the summer of 2006, a proposal requesting continued support for the evaluation of Insite was submitted to Health Canada. And I'd like to point out that what we actually did is we stopped and paused for a minute. We had a new conservative federal government who had made public statements saying they didn't like this initiative. They didn't like the use of public tax dollars going there. We were a little concerned about some political interference. So we said to Health Canada, we will submit an application for an additional 3.5 years of evaluation under the condition that you adhere to the same level of scientific integrity that we do. We want you to have our proposal independently peer-reviewed by recognized experts in the field. We need not know who they are, but we want that level of scientific integrity. They said, no problem. But unfortunately, this is when the politicization and misrepresentation of science around Insite really took off. So let me introduce you to the key players. First and foremost, we have the Conservative Party of Canada, probably playing the most important role. But they have a very large supporting cast, including the RCMP. Like they don't have enough troubles on their own right now. They also have Drug Free America Foundation, a well-known lobby group that is promoting the war on drugs internationally. And we have now their fake online open access journal called the Global Journal on Policy and Practice. And in the middle, as you probably heard in the last couple of days, that old, tired International Narcotics Control Board continues to beat its drum.